going to shift gears a little bit. I want to talk to my pal Gordon Chang about China. Gordon's a senior fellow at the Gatestone Institute, author of The Great U.S.-China Tech War and the Coming Collapse of China. As always, Gordon, welcome back to the show, back to the set. From a recent interview, Henry Kissinger turned 100 years old. Let me just read you Tunku Varajajan's interview. He, quote, Kissinger, "The most important conversation that can take place now is between the two leaders, in which they agree that they have the most dangerous capabilities in the world and that they will conduct their policy in such a way that the military conflict with them is reduced." That's the quote from Kissinger. And then the Wall Street Journal's Tunku said, "It sounds much like détente, the Cold War policy Mr. Kissinger pioneered." And later in the interview, Kissinger agreed that it sounded like détente. Now, détente with China. China has just put out a press release responding to Biden at the G7. Biden said, "We're going to have a thaw." China said, "No, we're not." Defense Secretary Austin made an overture to meet with their defense secretary. No, they won't do it. Everybody knows they're arming to the teeth to go after Taiwan. Everybody knows that, including the Joint Chiefs of Staff that said it could happen in a couple of years. And I'll get to the U.S.-China trade deal because the tariffs are under review. But what is your take? Détente? Does that sound? I love Kissinger. I love him. Personal friend, great help to me in and out of government. But I don't know. Détente, Gordon Chang, really?
Yeah, that's a conversation that you could have had maybe 2 decades ago, but you can't have it now. And the problem is that inside the Chinese regime right now, there's an imperative for war for a number of reasons. They've got domestic problems they have no solutions for other than to rally the Chinese people with a foreign conflict. But the other thing is that you have a whole class of flag officers that really do want to go out and kill. And that's the problem. We saw that with that May 26th intercept of the U.S. Air Force reconnaissance plane. And we got to remember, that's May 26th. May 26, 2022, 1 year before, the Chinese did that with an Australian plane, almost brought it down. China, with its anniversaries, wants to tell people they are going after the rest of the world.
They wouldn't even meet with Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense. They denied this thaw business. I don't know where Biden got that. He just kind of said it at the end of the G7 meeting a week ago. And China said, no, we're not. Every piece of evidence I see, China is going after Taiwan. All right, sooner or later, I'm not smart enough to know when. This just doesn't strike me as a détente situation.
No, it certainly doesn't. And especially in the Chinese military right now, they are actually purging general officers who are opposed to war.
Oh.
And so really what you've got right now is a regime that has got a momentum. And the question is, we probably will be at war unless something changes. And right now, I don't see anything changing because Xi Jinping has a lot of reasons why it would make sense for him to beat up a foreign neighbor. So that's the reason why I think, when Kissinger talks about détente, we should be talking deterrence because we can keep the peace if China knows that the United States will protect itself, its friends, and its allies. China, I think, doesn't know that right now.
I know. We have not signaled that. We have not recovered from the rabid, catastrophic retreat from Afghanistan, leaving that Bagram air base and all the equipment. I think that was the biggest sign of weakness. Let me go to another subject, though, that's very important related to this. The U.S.-China trade deal, the Phase 1 trade deal, which I make no apologies, I worked on it. And Trump helped negotiate this. That deal is now under review. It's 4 years. Under the trade laws 301, it comes under normal review. We will have Bob Lighthizer tomorrow, who is the principal negotiator. But, Gordon Chang, it just seems to me this is not a time to withdraw tariffs or any other darn thing because they're not going to give us anything in return, right? There's no reciprocity here at all. Or what am I missing?
Absolutely. There are a number of things. First of all, we've got to remember that these tariffs were imposed under Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974 as a remedy for the theft of intellectual property.
That is correct.
We are not seeing China slacking off on stealing our stuff. The FBI puts the number at $600 billion a year of U.S. IP. Now, we can argue whether it's a little more or a little less, but the point is, if you're going to take the tariffs off, The people in the United States needs to ask their president, what is he going to do to protect our IP? And so, yes, clearly we shouldn't do it from that perspective. But also, you're right. China right now, Xi Jinping is going after foreign companies. He's going after domestic private entrepreneurs because he believes in a state economy. He is not going to give us anything for this. And we have to understand the nature of that system is very different from ours. And then Chinese negotiate very differently than we do. You're not going to get anything if you give up tariffs.
This is a hostile regime. This is, they're not friendly competitors. This is a hostile regime, it seems to me. They're adversaries. Even, Gordon, you know what? We talk about this 301 trade deal, which we signed in early 2020. The negotiations were 2018 and 2019. It's only 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I think they've changed since then. They've become much more militant just since then, for heaven's sake. As I say, we'll get Lighthizer on tomorrow. But, I believe in reciprocity, okay? If anybody thinks we should give them something on trade, including the, not only stealing IP, but also the forced transfer of technology, what are they going to give us in return? In other words, we're negotiating with ourselves, with China.
Yes.
I mean, that's the part I just don't get that.
Yeah, and it's because we've always felt that the United States was so much stronger, we could entice China into good behavior, but clearly under Xi Jinping, you can't do that. You know, just a few hours ago, he talked to his security chiefs and talked about the worst case scenario. There is nobody threatening China. So when Xi Jinping talks about worst case, it means that he is thinking about moving against his neighbors. Yep. And we need to have a president of the United States who is going to say, look, we will protect ourselves. Because right now, the Chinese, I think, believe that they can make advances and not have any costs imposed on them.
Yep, I'm afraid you're right. Gordon Chang, thank you very much. We appreciate it.